Right. Good morning, students. So in the previous class, we discussed regarding crystal defects and regarding introduction of electrical properties of matter. Okay. All right. So now in today's class, we'll discuss regarding semiconductors. So as you know, the semiconductors are of two types: intrinsic semiconductors and extrinsic semiconductors. Again, these extrinsic semiconductors are further divided into two types: p-type semiconductors and n-type semiconductors. All those one by one we'll discuss. First, we'll go for intrinsic semiconductors. So, regarding intrinsic semiconductors, right? See, the conductivity due to pure substances like silicon and germanium belongs to 14th group elements is known as intrinsic semiconductivity. So 14th group elements like silicon, germanium, so these acts as a intrinsic semiconductor. So let us see the how they can access semiconductors here. So if you take a silicon atom, the electronic configuration of silicon atom is neon 3s2 3p2. That means the valence shell consists of 4 electrons. So in silicon, silicon atom contains 4 valence electrons. Now, so if we take the silicon element here, so right. So in silicon, it consists of 4 valence electrons. So these 4 valence electrons which are present at each silicon atom is shared with 4 other silicon atoms tetrahedrally. That means each silicon is bonded with 4 other silicon atoms like this. So this 2 electrons represents a bond between silicon atoms. Like that, each silicon atom is surrounded by 4 other silicon atoms tetrahedrally. Right. Now this is the bonding in silicon atom. Now here in silicon, each silicon atom is bonded with 4 other silicon atoms tetrahedrally. Okay, there is no free valence electrons to conduct electricity. Now, if you apply an electric field here, so if you apply an electric field, some of the bonds between silicon atoms will break here. On applying electric field, some of the bonds between silicon atoms will break. Suppose if this bond break here, then here a vacant orbital is produced and this electron move towards this positive terminal. So whenever this electron moves from this point, this positive terminal, then side by or the adjacent bonds will break. Suppose if this bond will break, now electron move from here to here, and here the bond will be formed, and here a vacant orbital is created. So like that, electrons will transmit. Now from here a vacant orbital is produced, that electron will promote to here. and then from this negative terminal an electron enters to here, like this. So on applying electric field, some of the bonds between silicon atoms will break. See, on applying electric field, some of the bonds between silicon atoms will break and the electrons will move towards positive terminal. Then a vacant orbital is produced, and that vacant orbital is filled by electrons from the adjacent atoms. Like that, the adjacent bonds will break and electrons move towards positive terminal. Then how many electrons move towards positive terminal? The same number of electrons enters into the lattice. Okay, so as a result, these can conduct electricity even though they does not contains free electrons. See, in silicon, the valence shell contains 4 electrons. All 4 valence electrons are involved in bond formation. Okay, there is no free electrons to conduct electricity. But on applying electric field, some of the bonds between silicon atoms will break and electrons displaced towards positive terminal. At the same time, so when electron moves towards the positive terminal, a vacant orbital is produced. Now, the neighboring bonds will break and electrons will move towards this vacant orbital. Suppose here electron will move towards here, then the bond will be formed here and here vacant orbital. Again electron will jump from here to here, the bond will be formed a vacant orbital. Now into this vacant orbital, electrons enters from the negative terminal. Like this, electrons will move from negative terminal to positive terminal on applying electric field. Okay, right. Then here, in case of semiconductors, with increasing temperature, the conductivity increases. Whereas in case of metals, with increasing temperature, conductivity decreases. Why the electrical conductivity with increasing temperature here? See, the reason is here with increasing temperature, more number of bonds will break. With increasing temperature, more number of bonds will break and more number of electrons jumps from negative terminal towards positive terminal. Instead of 1 here, more number of bonds will break and more number of electrons will be displaced. The same we discussed in the previous class. So in case of semiconductors, the forbidden gap between valence band and conduction band is less. Since forbidden gap is less between valence band and conduction band, electrons can migrate from valence band to conduction band. Right. On increasing temperature, kinetic energy of electrons increases and more number of electrons will migrate from valence band to conduction band. As a result, electrical conductivity increases. So here the conductivity is due to pure substance. So this type of semiconductors are known as intrinsic semiconductors. Okay, right. So the conductivity due to pure substance is known as intrinsic semiconductor. Next, extrinsic semiconductors. Again, these extrinsic semiconductors are two types. One is N-type semiconductor and the second one is P-type semiconductor. So N-type semiconductor and P-type semiconductor. Okay, right. Now see. So what is this N-type semiconductor and how it is obtained? What is P-type semiconductor and how it is obtained? So let us see here now. So it's a N type or P type. There is extrinsic semiconductors are obtained by doping. See, what is the meaning of doping is? The process of introduction of impurities. The process of introduction of impurities to a pure semiconductor is nothing but known as doping. Now here, this N-type semiconductors are obtained if 14th group elements, are doped with 15th group elements. So N-type semiconductors are obtained if 14th group elements are doped with 15th group elements like arsenic, phosphorus. These are some examples of 15th group elements. Now see here. So if a 14th group element, nothing but silicon. If a 14th group element is doped with a 15th group element like arsenic. Now see here. Instead of taking a silicon here, I am going to take arsenic, As. Arsenic belongs to 15th group. And this arsenic contains 5 valence electrons. So arsenic contains 5 valence electrons. Out of the 5 valence electrons, 4 valence electrons are involved in the formation of bonds with silicon atoms. And what about the 5th electron is there? This 5th electron is free. Now see here. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5th. Out of the 5 electrons, 4 electrons are involved in bond formation with 4 neighboring silicon atoms, and the 5th valence electron is free, which is not involved in bond formation. Right. Now, on applying electric field here, this 5th valence electron, which is not involved in bonding, will move freely in the lattice. And because of this free movement of electron, it can conduct electricity. So here the conduction is due to the negatively charged particles, that is electrons. Since the conduction is due to negatively charged particles, these are called N-type semiconductors. Okay. See once again. If 14th group elements like silicon or germanium are doped with 15th group elements like phosphorus or arsenic, okay, then we can get N-type semiconductors. See, 15th group elements, there is arsenic contains 5 valence electrons. Out of the 5 valence electrons, only 4 valence electrons are involved in bonding with 4 other silicon atoms, whereas the 5th valence electron is free, which is not involved in bonding. Now, under the influence of this applied electric field, this electron will move freely from a negative terminal to positive terminal. As a result, they can conduct electricity. So here, since the conduction is due to the negatively charged particles, this is called N-type semiconductor. This is an example of extrinsic semiconductor. Now come to here. P-type semiconductor. So this P-type semiconductors are obtained when when 14th group elements are doped. When 14th group elements are doped with 13th group elements. So when 14th group elements are doped with 13th group elements, then we will get a P-type semiconductor. Why it is called as p-type semiconductor? Let us see. What are 13 group elements like boron, aluminum, gallium, like this. So when 14th group elements are doped with 13th group elements like boron, aluminum or gallium, then we will get p-type semiconductors. Let us see here now. Now here, in place of silicon, I will take a 13th group elements, gallium. Gallium is taken here. Now this 13th group element consists of only 3 valence electrons, ns2, np1, outer shell electronic configuration. Now the 3 valence electron of gallium can form 3 bonds with the 3 neighboring silicon atoms. Okay. So it forms 3 bonds with 3 neighboring silicon atoms. Now, the 4th orbital is vacant. So out of 4 orbitals, 3 orbitals contains electrons and 4th orbital of gallium is vacant. Now, the 3 gallium atoms can form 3 bonds with the neighboring silicon atoms, whereas this 4th orbital is vacant. Now, on applying electric field, so what will happen here is, see, the neighboring bond will break. This electron will enter into this vacant orbital. When the electron enters into the vacant orbital, then a bond will be formed here between this gallium and silicon. Since this orbital loses electron, a vacant orbital is created, and that vacant orbital is called as hole. Now, next, this bond will break and this electron move from here to here. Then again bond will be formed here. Here a vacant orbital is produced. And this vacant orbital is nothing but called as a hole. So if you observe clearly, on applying electric field, electron move from here to here, here to here. That means electrons are moving in this direction. But actually, it seems to be the hole is moving. Hole means nothing but, as I said, vacant orbital. Since on applying electric field, electron move from negative terminal to positive terminal, that is from left to right. But it seems to appear as the hole moving from here to here, here to here. That means the hole is moving from a left hand side to right hand side. That means the flow of electrons and the displacement of hole are in a opposite direction. Since here the vacant orbital hole, which is considered as a positive site, is responsible for conduction of electricity. This is called as a n-type semiconductor. Sorry, this is called as a p-type semiconductor, positive type. See once again. When 14 group elements are doped with 13 group elements, then we will get a p-type semiconductor. See, 13 group elements contains only 3 electrons in the valence shell and 1 vacant orbital. Now, the 3 electrons present in the valence shell of this gallium atom can form 3 bonds with 3 neighboring silicon atoms. And now this 4th orbital is vacant, which does not contains any electrons. Now, on applying electric field, the electrons will migrate from neighboring atoms to this vacant orbital. So if electron jumps from here to here, and now this electron and this electron will form bond, here a vacant orbital is produced. Next, this electron will jump to here, then bond is formed here, vacant orbital is produced. That means electrons are moving from left hand to right hand side, and the hole is moving from right hand side to left hand side. So here the vacant orbital known as hole is responsible for the conduction of electricity. That's why this is called as a p-type semiconductor. Okay, and see the conductivity of these are less. Generally, with increasing with doping, that is extrinsic semiconductors are having more conductivity than compared to intrinsic semiconductors. So by the process of doping, the electrical conductivity will be increased either by p-type semiconductor or by n-type semiconductor. So in practice, by taking the combinations of these semiconductors, we can produce diodes known as rectifiers. There is PN, NP, like this. Okay, by the combination of two different types of semiconductors, we can produce a PN type diode or NP type diode known as rectifiers. And similarly, by sandwiching a particular type of extrinsic semiconductor with the opposite type semiconductors, means a P type semiconductor sandwiched with N type semiconductors, or N type semiconductor sandwiched with P type. This is NPN, PNP transistors. Since NPN and PNP transistors are generally used for the detection and amplification of audio signals. So for the detection and amplification of audio signals, these transistors are used known as NPN or PNP transistors. Okay, right. And see, in the preparation of this semiconductors, a revolutionary changes came by preparing different types of semiconductors by taking the elements of different groups. See, so by the combination of 13th and 15th group elements, 13th group elements and 15th group elements, what those are? See here, aluminum, gallium, indium, some elements are taken here, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony. See, aluminum phosphide, Al, aluminum phosphide, gallium arsenide, indium stibinide. So these are some semiconducting devices. So here if you observe, on an average 4 electrons will be there. 13th group element contains 3 electrons, whereas 15th group element contains 5 electrons. On an average 8 electrons will be there. Okay, so these are having more conducting properties. Similarly, by the combination of 12th group elements as well as 16th group elements, also the semiconductors are prepared. What are 12th group elements? Zinc, cadmium, mercury. So zinc, cadmium and mercury are 12th group elements. 16th group elements: sulfur, selenium, tellurium. Oxygen is gas, leave that. Now let us see some compounds of this. Zinc sulfide, ZnS, with the combination of 12th and 16th group. Here also an average of 4 electrons will be there. 2 electrons plus 6 electrons, 8. So zinc sulfide, cadmium sulfide, okay, cadmium selenide, mercuric telluride. These are some compounds which can act as semiconductors. Like that. So after preparation of the compounds from 13 and 15 group elements combination and 12th and 16 group elements combination, a revolutionary changes came in the synthesis of semiconducting devices. Okay, right. And so these are some examples. See, not only N type, not only P type, these are the compounds which can exhibit, which can show semiconducting properties. Aluminum phosphide, gallium arsenide, indium stibinide, zinc sulfide, cadmium sulfide, cadmium selenide, mercuric telluride. So all these substances can access semiconductors. Okay. Right. Next. So if you take some other compounds, like TiO, titanium oxide, CrO2, ReO3. These are some oxides of transition elements. Titanium oxide, chromium oxide, rhenium oxide. These are oxides of some transition elements which behaves as metals in their conductivity. Some oxides of transition elements like TiO, titanium oxide, CrO2, chromium oxide, ReO3, rhenium oxide. So these behaves as metals in their conductivity. So if you take the compound like this is ReO3, rhenium oxide, this behaves as copper almost in conductivity. See, in its conductivity, rhenium oxide ReO3 can behave as copper in its conductivity. And see, if you take some compounds like VO, VO2, VO3, okay, like this, TiO3, like this, and these compounds can behave as conductors as well as insulators. Conductors as well as insulators depending on temperature. So depending on temperature, some compounds like VO, VO2, VO3, okay, so these behaves as insulators or conductors depending on the temperature conditions. Okay, so this is regarding semiconductors. Or also once again, so depending on electrical conductivity, the substances are classified into three types: conductors, semiconductors, and insulators. See, if the conductivity lies in between 10 power 7 to 10 power 4 ohm inverse, meter inverse, then they are called conductors. If the conductivity lies in between 10 power 4 to 10 power minus 6 ohm inverse and per meter, they act as semiconductors. If the conductivity lies in between 10 power minus 10 to 10 power minus 20, they behave as insulators. And the conductivity of these can be explained based on band theory of solids. According to this band theory of solids, the atomic orbitals present in the valence shell of an atom are intermixed with the same energy and forms two sets of molecular orbitals. So one set of molecular orbitals having lower energy containing electrons is called valence band, and another set of molecular orbital having say with a higher energy are called conduction band. So now electrons can move from valence band to conduction band. As a result, electrical conductivity will be there. So in case of metals, these two are overlapped with each other. As a result, electron can move freely from valence band to conduction band. So the electrical conductivity is more. So in case of insulators, the energy gap, which is known as forbidden gap, the energy gap between valence band and conduction band is more. So the electrons cannot move freely from valence band to conduction band. So they will not conduct electricity. In case of semiconductors, the energy gap between valence band and conduction band is less. As a result, electrons move from valence band to conduction band to some extent. Right. Now, as per our syllabus, so we are going to discuss about semiconductors. Again, the semiconductors are divided into two types: intrinsic semiconductors and extrinsic semiconductors. The semiconductors means the of pure substances is nothing but known as intrinsic semiconductivity. Example, 14 group elements like silicon and germanium can act as intrinsic semiconductor. If these intrinsic semiconductors are doped, then we can get extrinsic semiconductors. Doping is nothing but the process of introduction of atoms of other element. Depending on the nature of the element what was introduced, we can get two types of semiconductors, N-type and P-type. So N-type are obtained when 14 group elements like silicon or germanium are doped with 15 group elements like phosphorus, arsenic, antimony. Similarly, 14 group elements, if 14 group elements are doped with 13 group elements, then we can get a P-type semiconductor. So here in N-type, the negatively charged electrons are responsible for a conduction of electricity. Whereas in P-type, vacant orbitals are responsible for electrical conductivity. That means the holes are responsible for electrical conductivity. So that is what we discussed right now. And after that, so not only this, by the combination of different group elements also we can produce semiconductors. By the proportion of these revolutionary changes came in the production of semiconductors. So we can produce semiconductors by the combination of 13th and 15th group elements, as well as we can produce semiconductors by the combination of 12th group and 16th group elements. And in case of solids, some compounds are having a conductivity similar to metals like these: titanium, chromium and rhenium oxides. Whereas rhenium oxide is having electrical conductivity nearly similar to copper metal. And some compounds, some oxides can behave as insulators or conductors depending on temperature. Example, VO, VO2, VO3. This temperature dependent conductivity these can show. So this is regarding the electrical properties of solids. Okay. So the same concept we learn in physics also. Semiconductors one topic is there. There you can also learn very clearly. Right. Now see here, magnetic properties of solids. Let's see here. So magnetic properties of solids. See how magnetic nature acquired by a substance. See, so whenever a charged particle is revolving around an oppositely charged particle, some magnetic field will be created. For example, if you take an atom, in an atom, this is the nucleus. Around this nucleus, electron is revolving. Okay, nucleus consists of protons plus neutrons. That is positively charged particles, protons. And around this positively charged nucleus, electrons are revolving. As a result, a magnetic field will be created. So when electrons are revolving around the nucleus, a magnetic field is produced. That means here in an atom, every electron itself can act as a tiny magnet. And the magnetic nature of the substance is due to two reasons. One is due to orbital motion. Orbital motion around the nucleus. orbital motion around the nucleus, and second one is due to spin of electrons, due to spin of electrons on its own axis. See, the magnetic momentum of a substance is due to two reasons. One is due to orbital motion around the nucleus, and one more is due to the spin of electrons on its own axis. That means electron will revolve on its own axis. So electron will revolve on its own axis, and the orbital is moving around the nucleus. That means here the magnetic field is due to orbital motion around the nucleus, at the same time spin of the electron on its own axis. Okay, because of these two reasons the magnetic field will be produced. So in an atom, every electron itself can act as a tiny magnet. Right, now if you take an orbital, the orbital contains two electrons. So one electron revolving clockwise, another is revolving in anti-clockwise. Okay, that means the spin of the two electrons is opposite. That means the magnetic moment of one electron get nullified by the magnetic moment of another electron here. The magnetic field of one electron get nullified by magnetic field of another electron. That means if an orbital contains paired electrons, the net magnetic moment due to the electrons is 0. No net magnetic moment is there. So if an orbital contains an unpaired electron, here magnetic moment is only due to this single electron. Now it possesses some net magnetic moment, but the magnetic moment possessed by an electron is very less, because charge of electron is very less. So the magnetic moment due to an electron is very less. That's why it is expressed in terms of Bohr magnetons. The magnetic moment of a substance is expressed in terms of Bohr magnetons. See, one Bohr magneton is equal to 9.27 into 10 power minus 24 ampere meter square. This is, so 9.27 into 10 power minus 24 ampere meter square. This is equal to 1 Bohr magnetons. Since magnetic moment of electron is less, it is expressed in terms of Bohr magnetons. Right. This is about the units of magnetic moment. Right. Now, so depending on the magnetic nature, the substances are classified into different types. So what those types are? First one, diamagnetic substances. So diamagnetic substances. So what are diamagnetic substances? See, these are the substances which are repelled by magnetic field. The substances which are repelled by magnetic field are called as diamagnetic substances. So why these are repelled by magnetic field is, so these contains all paired electrons. So these contains all paired electrons. Since these contains all paired electrons, the net magnetic moment will be 0. So in case of diamagnetic substances, the net magnetic moment is 0. Let us take some examples here. Scandium plus 3, titanium plus 4, Cu plus, okay, like this. So any species which does not contains unpaired electrons, that is which contains all paired electrons, can access diamagnetic substances. So the substances which are repelled by magnetic field are known as diamagnetic substances. Okay, so these diamagnetic substances contains all paired electrons. So the net magnetic moment mu is equal to 0. So any species without unpaired electrons can access diamagnetic substance. The second one is paramagnetic substance. So these contains one or more unpaired electrons. So these are the substances which contains which are attracted by magnetic field. The substances which are attracted by magnetic field are known as paramagnetic substances. And these paramagnetic substances contains one or more unpaired electrons. So here this possesses some net magnetic moment mu is not equal to 0. It possesses some net magnetic moment. And let us take some examples for this is Cu plus 2, okay, Cr plus 3, Ni plus 2, and so on like this. You can take an example which contains one or more unpaired electrons. And see the magnetic moment of this paramagnetic species can be calculated by the formula mu is equal to, this is spin only magnetic moment, mu s. So this formula is used to calculate the magnetic moment due to electron spin only. So mu s is equal to square root of n into n plus 2 Bohr magnetons Bm. So mu is equal to square root of n into n plus 2 Bohr magnetons. This formula is used to calculate the magnetic moment of paramagnetic substances. Okay, right. This is regarding paramagnetic substances. Next. Ferromagnetic substances. Right. So what are ferromagnetic substances? See, these are the substances in which the magnetic domains are aligned in the same direction. What are magnetic domains? See, magnetic domains are nothing but the group of metal atoms which possess some net magnetic moment. The group of atoms or ions which possess some net magnetic moment is called magnetic domains. So if you take a substance, in that substance some magnetic domains will be there. Just I am representing here some group of atoms which is known as magnetic domain. Based some magnetic domains. So each magnetic domain is having some net magnetic moment, and these magnetic moments are in different directions like this. In different directions the magnetic domains may aligned, but so whenever an external magnetic field is applied, then all the magnetic domains are aligned in the same direction. See here. So what I am representing here, circle, each circle represents a magnetic domain. So whenever electric field is applied, whenever a magnetic field is applied, all the magnetic domains are aligned in the same direction like this. All the magnetic domains are aligned in the same direction. Such substances are called ferromagnetic substances. What are ferromagnetic substances? Iron, cobalt, nickel, gadolinium, CrO2, So these are some examples of ferromagnetic substances. And these ferromagnetic substances once magnetized, and even after the removal of the external magnetic field also, they will not lose their magnetic nature. The magnetic domains are in the same direction only. Okay, so the substances in which the magnetic domains are aligned in the same direction are known as ferromagnetic substances, and these ferromagnetic substances are permanently magnetized. Okay, right. Second, next, fourth one. Ferrimagnetic substances. See, these are the substances in which magnetic domains are aligned parallelly and anti-parallelly in unequal number and possess some net magnetic moment. The substances in which the magnetic domains are aligned parallel and anti-parallel direction in unequal numbers and possess some net magnetic moment. For example, let us here like this. Now, if you observe here, 4 arrows are upward and 2 arrows are downward. That means the net magnetic moment is not zero, it possesses some net magnetic moment. Like that, the substances in which the magnetic domains are aligned in parallel as well as in anti-parallel direction and the substance possesses some net magnetic moment are called as ferrimagnetic substances. Examples of ferrites, Fe3O4, nothing but a hematite is a ferrimagnetic substance, or zinc ferrite, Zn Fe2O4, or magnesium ferrite, MgFe2O4. So these are some examples of ferrimagnetic substances. The magnetic domains are aligned in parallel and anti-parallel direction in unequal numbers and possess some net magnetic moment, are known as ferrimagnetic substances. And next one, antiferromagnetic substances. An example for this is manganese oxide, MnO. MnO and MnO2, these are examples of antiferromagnetic substances. Now, in this antiferromagnetic substances, here the magnetic domains are aligned in parallel and anti-parallel direction. Right. Here magnetic domains are aligned in a parallel as well as in anti-parallel direction in equal numbers and there is no net magnetic moment. Such substances are called as antiferromagnetic substances. Okay, see one second. Magnetic properties of solids. See, the magnetic nature of a substance is due to two reasons. One is due to the orbital motion around the nucleus, and the second one is due to the spin of the electron. Because of these two reasons, the substance possesses a magnetic nature. Okay, right. Then, so when an electron is revolving around the nucleus, it produces some magnetic field. But the magnetic field produced by electron is very less, and that is expressed in terms of Bohr magnetons. See, one Bohr magneton is nothing but 9.27 into 10 power minus 24 ampere meter square. Okay, right. Now, depending on the magnetic nature, the substances are classified into 5 types. They are diamagnetic, paramagnetic, ferromagnetic, ferrimagnetic, and antiferromagnetic. Diamagnetic substances. So these are the substances which contains all paired electrons and does not possess no net magnetic moment, means mu is equal to 0. So any species which does not contains unpaired electrons can act as diamagnetic substance. Next, paramagnetic substances. See, the substances which contains one or more unpaired electrons can act as paramagnetic substances. See, these paramagnetic substances are attracted by magnetic field, and the magnetic moment of these can be calculated by the formula mu is equal to square root of n into n plus 2 Bohr magnetons. Next, ferromagnetic substances. These are the substances in which the magnetic domains are aligned in the same direction. See, magnetic domain is nothing but a group of atoms or ions possess some net magnetic moment. That is called as magnetic domain. So in a substance, if all the magnetic domains, actually if in a substance, the magnetic domains are aligned randomly in different directions. So whenever the magnetic field is applied, if all the magnetic domains are aligned in the same direction, then such substances are called as ferromagnetic substances. The substances like iron, cobalt, nickel, gadolinium and chromium oxide can act as ferromagnetic substances. These substances once magnetized, they can never lose their magnetic behavior. So these are ferromagnetic substances. Next, ferrimagnetic substances. So these are the substances in which the magnetic domains are aligned in parallel and anti-parallel directions in unequal number and possess some net magnetic moment. Those are called as ferrimagnetic substances. Example, ferrites, zinc ferrite, magnesium ferrite, or hematite, that is Fe3O4. These acts as ferrimagnetic substances. And antiferromagnetic substances. See, these are the substances in which the magnetic domains are aligned in parallel and anti-parallel direction in equal number and possess no net magnetic moment. Those are called as antiferromagnetic substances. Example, manganese oxide, MnO can act as antiferromagnetic substance. See, this is regarding magnetic properties of solids. And even one more concept is there that is not included syllabus, just briefly I'll tell you here. There is electrical properties of dielectric properties of solids. See, in an atom, the electron cloud is distributed symmetrically. When an electric field is applied, then the electron cloud is polarized and dipoles are produced. And because of these dipoles, it possesses some electrical properties. Based on that, those are classified as piezoelectric substances, pyroelectric substances, ferroelectric substances, antiferroelectric substances, like that. Okay, actually this is not included in syllabus. As per our syllabus, we learn about semiconductors and magnetic properties of solids. And one more is superconductor. See, the substances in which the resistance is 0. At what conditions? At a certain temperature, the resistance of a substance becomes 0. Such substances are called as superconductors. Okay, just a brief introduction, not included our syllabus. This is regarding total about solid state chapter. Okay, so whatever discussed in the previous all classes, this is very important chapter, and even some objective type of questions also there. And those objective questions we will discuss in our regular syllabus, regular classes. And some problems also there based on density. What is the formula of density? D is equal to Zm by Na cube. That is simple problems. Just the given data you have to substitute directly in the formula, you will get the answers. And regarding all those applications and objective questions, we will discuss in our regular classes. Okay, thank you.